Hi everybody, it's Sandy Smith-Leyva, and I'm delighted to bring you this week's edition of Brain Food for Accounting Leaders. This week we're going to talk about something I call highways and backroads. It's one of my favorites, and it's in the realm of possibility. We talked a few weeks ago about plasticity, and I hope you remember that because we came to the conclusion that you can actually design your own brain, but I didn't go into exactly how you can do this. So we're going to talk about that today, where your brain is so plastic, it's so malleable, it is really contingent upon the experiences and the things that you decide to focus on in life, and that's what shapes your brain. We have neural pathways, so when it comes to the wiring, what I call the wiring that's inside your brain, these are things called neural pathways, and they are what stores the learning and the memory for us. And we can, this is the part that's plastic, we can actually change, who we are and who we want to be in life based on what we bring into our inputs into our brain, which are our experiences. And there's a saying in neuroscience that says, neurons that fire together wire together. What that means is the more experience we have with a particular topic or something, the stronger the pathways get, and the better we get at that, the more experience we have in that kind of a thing. So that's what we mean by the connections in our brain are literally thick and strengthened when we practice something. Now, I've got a formula for you, and then I'm going to explain this in a really simple way, what we need to do in order to benefit from plasticity and to design our own brain. Plasticity, the ability to change our brain, is what enables practice. And the more we practice something in any area, the better we get, even beyond IQ capability and everything like that. And that is what leads to high performance. Certainly you've heard the 10,000-hour rule, where the more time you spend on something, the more of an expert you become. These are the concert pianists. These are the artists. These are the singers. They've put in a lot of time. They've put in their practice, and that's where they get really good at things in their lives, and that's where high performance leads. So here's a really easy way to understand this, and I think this is really, really key because this goes down to the behavior of whether we're going to actually benefit from this or not. The thick neurons, the really thick neurons that we have are our habits, and I call these the highways, all right? So they're just really thick neural pathways in our brains. These are what we have as habits already. So we can do these things on our sleep. It's really easy. We've done it before. We've practiced a lot one way or another, and we can do these. We know these topics very, very well. The backroads, we have those too in our brains, all right? If you can equate the neural pathways with roads, then we have backroads, and maybe there are some things inside our brain where we have the capability, but it's kind of overgrown with brush, and it's a really small pathway, and we have to maybe kind of cut through it. These are things we've never done before. They're going to actually be very uncomfortable for our brain to do because we're not used to it. We're used to going on the highways. Those are really easy for us to do. But the things we haven't done before, because we haven't developed the neural pathways, they're just not all that easy. All right, so just to carry this metaphor on a little bit further, the highways are things like the habits and the routines. They're comfortable. The key is they use very few resources in our brain because they're already they're fired together. They're very thick, right? And so they don't use a lot of resources because they're already kind of set in our brain. But we can also get pretty bored easy because there's not much of a challenge. And in this case, when we're using a highway in our brain, the brain doesn't grow. Now, let's compare that to backroads, where we've got a really small trail started. Maybe we've done it once before. These are activities that maybe we're not so good at, but we perfectly have the capability to develop them. These are new activities. These are maybe where we want our brain to go. It does require attention for us to focus on doing this task. It may feel uncomfortable, and the reason why it does is because our brain is really stingy, and it doesn't want us to use all those resources up. Our brain requires a ton of oxygen and glucose, more than any other organ in the body, like a huge, disproportionate amount. And what happens is we can end up giving up before we actually develop these back roads into highways. But I would encourage you not to do that, because that's just your brain trying to be stingy. All right? So when you have a feeling that, oh, I might not be good at that, that's around your brain kind of tricking you into being lazy and wanting to not use the resources up. But this is the only place where the brain grows and develops. And it's so good to be in this place of discomfort, because that's where we can literally change our brain, take advantage of plasticity, and even keep ourselves younger. All right, so when we tend to feel really comfortable at what we're doing and we're getting a little bit bored and we're getting a little burned out, then it makes sense that we need to go on the back roads. When we're so exhausted from the back roads because we're hiking and it takes a lot of resources, we may need to flip back to the highways for a while just to be comfortable. So there's a balance between the highways and the back roads that you're going to want to find out what you want to do for yourself. And in that way, a nice balance between these two are going to make a really great life. It's going to keep you engaged, going to keep you interested and curious, and then it's also going to keep you away from, but then you're going to have your comfortable habits that you can kind of balance back onto so that your life is not an exhausting challenge all the time. All right, and just to wrap this up, you might have heard of Maslow's 4 stages of learning. So this ties in with that. Very quickly, when you first begin to learn something, actually you don't even know you need to learn it. That's actually the first stage, and Maslow calls that unconscious incompetence. It's literally we don't know what we don't know. So those are when we're in the back roads of our brain, or maybe they're not even a road yet. When we begin to start learning something new, we have to really focus on it. And we actually, even before we start to practice, we become aware that we need to work on this. We become aware that we need to get on a back road and start working on it. And then we need to start practicing, and this is where we have thoughtful practice. We're conscious, and we're developing our competence. We're moving from incompetence to competence, and this is where learning occurs. This is the only place where learning occurs. We can stay stuck and aware, and I know that, in that kind of I know that mode, but without practice, we really don't know it. The learning doesn't occur until here. And then this is the back road right here. And then this is the highway in number 4, where now at some point it moves from a back road to the highway. We don't have to think as hard. The behavior becomes more automatic, and we can begin to do it in our sleep. So a nice balance between 3 and 4 is what you want to keep your life at and keep your brain at, and that will make for a great life, a great balance. So I think there's several things to learn here is, learning how to be kind of uncomfortable, because that's what learning is. Learning and discomfort kind of go together, and it's all okay. So the action item for today is, what part of your brain would you like to make bigger or maybe even smaller? So you can do it by balancing your highways and back roads. Thanks. Bye.